Chapter 3. The Invasion of Konoha. It was the day of the Chunin Finals, and currently Naruto was sitting in the stands. By his side was Hinata. Hinata still had her hiatus on her forehead to hide the fact the seal had been removed. Currently, Hinata was smiling, happy with what had happened in the past 2 weeks. That day, when everything had become bleak, was easily the best day she had ever had. Sure, it had started out dark and she nearly lost all hope, but now she was happily dating Naruto. It was a dream come true. After the ramen trip, they had gotten to know each other better and went on 2 more dates before Naruto made it official and asked her to be his girlfriend, something that she had immediately said yes before promptly passing out. When she woke up in her bed at Kuronai-sensei's apartment, she had thought it was a dream, till her surrogate mother figure decided to tease her about it. Naruto was sitting in his seat, resting against his chair with Shinjitsu, who was currently in dreamland. He didn't know why, but he had a bad feeling about today. Thus he had made sure to stock up on supplies. In front of them were the rest of the Genin and the Jonin sensei, except for Sakura, who had been removed from the Shinobi program for both her injury and mental issues. Sasuke kept glaring at Naruto was on probation, only thanks to the 2 elders Himura and Kohara. In the arena, all 12 contestants stood. In front of them was a young man with pale skin and bags under his eyes. His name was Gecko Jonin, and the referee for the Chunin exam finals. He didn't see the meeting between Kabuto and Baki in this story, so he's still alive. After a few minutes, the Hokage stood up in his box and stepped forward before his voice sounded through the Coliseum. Ladies, gentlemen, Shinobi, did I miss anyone? A laugh went through the crowd as he continued speaking. Welcome to the Chunin exam finals. Today we have 12 talented genin who are hoping to earn their promotion. I'm certain they will show us they are worthy of being promoted. Now let Chunin exam finals begin. Hei quickly explained the rules, coughing every minute or so. After he had explained to them, he said, now would everyone except for Zaku Abumi and Temari Sabaka please head up to the contestant box. Soon the only 3 left in the arena were the 2 combatants and Hei. Zaku smirked as he kept his hands in his pockets, assuming it would be an easy win. Temari returned the smirk as she pulled the large iron object off her back. Hei looked at the 2. Are you both ready? Zaku smirked. Let's get this started. I want to kick Blondie's ass. Temari nodded. Yes, let's go so I can show this more on his place. Hei nodded as he said, then begin. Zaku smirked and raised his hands, decapitating airwaves. With that shout, a burst of sound and air flew from his hands. Temari just smirked and opened the iron object, revealing it to be a large fan. She swung the fan and blew away the air and sound easily. Temari's smirk grew as she held up her fan. You see this moon here? There are 3 on this fan, and when I reach number 3, you lose. You cocky bitch. He raised his hands again, decapitating airwaves. He quickly fired off 3 more waves in quick succession, all of which Temari blocked with ease. Take this, you damn blonde slut. He braced himself as he shouted out, extreme decapitating airwaves. He released a burst of air and sound, so powerful it looked like a massive wall. Temari flipped her fan open completely as she gave it a swing. Sickle weasel technique. A huge gust of wind countered the wave of sound and air before destroying it and hitting Zaku, engulfing him in a tornado of bladed wind. After a couple minutes, Zaku fell to the ground with a scream of pain. Well, Jenny, Kiba flinched seeing that. Oh, poor guy. Shikamaru sighed as he muttered, and people wondered why I called blinds troublesome. Both Naruto and Ino heard that. Hey. Temari shook her head. Not even a challenge. Hei quickly checked Zaku's pulse before saying, the winner by knockout, Temari Sabaka. The audience cheered as Temari closed her fan and walked up to the contestant box. Hei then said, well, can Tsuchai and Kabuto Yakashi please enter the arena? Kabuto grinned as he walked into the arena. Orochimaru wanted him to hold back a bit, but still show off some of his skill to buy time for the troops to get in place. They had to change the plans since he was part of the finals. He couldn't exactly steal an amber uniform while in the finals, so once the signal was given, he would release the Genjutsu from the contestant box. Soon he stood in front of Ken, who was looking slightly uncomfortable. The smirk he was giving wasn't exactly giving her good vibes. She was slightly regretting joining her team and hitting him before the first test. Hay looked at the two. Are both combatants ready? After they both confirmed it, he raised his hand with a cough before saying, "Then let the battle begin." Kabuto grinned as he said, "You know, I'm almost certain that this is going to be my year." He went through hand signs. Chakra scalpel. His hands began to glow blue with chakra after using the jets. The reason is because I've finally gotten good enough to use these in battle. Kim pulled out her Senbin needles. If she was going to fight, she was at least going to make it a good one. She began to toss the needles at him, but he did the exact opposite of what she thought he would do. Instead of dodging, he cut through each of the Senbin needles. She cursed as she was forced to jump back to dodge a slash at her stomach. This was the worst possible matchup for her. All she had was her Senbins and Jinjutsu, and she couldn't even use them against him. Kabuto grinned. "You're quite the one-trick pony, huh? From what I've managed to gather, you're a Jinjutsu and Senbin specialist. Most like there is poison on those Senbin. The bells are most likely for sound-based Jinjutsu." Her face became pale. "How did you manage to figure that out?" Kabuto's grin turned sinister for a second before settling on a cocky smirk. "Way too fast for it to be noticed. While I may be a medic nin, I'm also quite skilled in gathering information. It's never a good idea to be too specialized." With those words, he ducked under another batch of Senbin before racing forward and placing his hand close to her neck. "Surrender or I cut your throat." Ken looked down and go. "I surrender." Hay raised his hand as he said, "Winner by surrender, Kabuto Yakashi." In the stands, Izumo Kamizuki, one of the eternal gate guards of Konoha, spoke up as he watched the match. "Kabuto has a point. That's also the mindset a Chunin needs." Koto Hagen nodded as he spoke. "Yeah, the guy definitely has the mindset, not to mention he's quite skilled with those chakra scalpels. He's got my vote." "What the Jen?" Kiba whistled. "Why, Kabuto's good. I've never seen someone use those chakra scalpels in battle. My sister only ever uses it in surgery for our Nika." Shikamaru nodded as he said, "It's also obvious he's good at collecting information if he was able to figure out her entire fighting style from just a couple clashes." He shook his head as he sighed. That level of information gathering is troublesome. Suddenly Shinjetsu spoke up from his spot beside Naruto's seat. For once being serious, he has a weird vibe, almost as if he's hiding behind a mask. Shikamaru nodded. "Yes, I could see that too." He froze as they all turned towards where the voice came from. "Naruto, was that you?" "No, that was me. Nice to meet you all. I'm Shinjetsu, Naruto's sword." Kiba was the one who spoke up first, in the most eloquent way possible. At least the most eloquent way for an Inuzuka. "Holy shit, your sword just talked." Shinjetsu spoke up, his metallic voice sounding smug as he did. "Don't let the novelty wear off for you, kid. I'm just awesome like that." Sasuke's eyes narrowed as he said, "How can the dope have a sword like you? You should be used by an elite member of the Uchiha clan, like me." Shinjetsu scoffed as he said, "An elite Uchiha? What exactly? I don't see either Midora or Izumi. I don't see Kagami or even Mikoto for that matter. Kid, you're nowhere near an elite member of the Uchiha clan. How dare you?" Shinjetsu continued as if Sasuke wasn't important. "Not to mention, if you were to even touch me, your chakra network would be drained to the point you would never be able to produce chakra again and you would be crippled for life. Only my chosen wielder may wield me, and I only ever choose Uzumaki clan members." Ino frowned. "What do you mean by the Uzumaki clan? There isn't a Uzumaki clan." Shinjetsu scoffed as he said, "There was a Uzumaki clan, and Naruto is the last known survivor. Now if you're all done with making stupid comments that make me question your sanity, I'm done with this conversation." The other genin began to question Naruto. He just frowned as his face was shadowed by his hat, but he ignored the questions being fired at him. Instead, he focused on the arena where the third match was about to begin. Hay spoke up as the two combatants left the arena. "What can Kuro Sabaku and Neji Hyuga please enter the arena?" Before anything could happen, Kankuro spoke from the contestant box. "Proctor, I forfeit." He didn't care if it seemed cowardly. He couldn't afford to reveal Crow's mechanisms yet. Hay nodded. "Okay, winner by forfeit, Neji Hyuga. Will Miss Yumi Tsurugi and Rock Lee please come down to the arena?" "What, Genin?" Naruto flinched as he said, "Oh, I feel bad for Miss Yumi since he drew bushy brows. Shoji munched on his chips as he said, "You trained with Lee and Taijutsu, right?" Naruto nodded. "Yeah, bushy brows is scarily good at Taijutsu. It's not just talent, he works hard and honestly. I would rather fight Neji than bushy brows Databale." Hinata looked at Naruto in confusion. She hadn't seen any of Naruto's training sessions with Team 9. Why is that, Naruto-kun? Because in all of their spars, Bushy Brows has never fought Neji seriously. He doesn't want to cripple Neji. Neji, despite what he believes, is much weaker than Bushy Brows. Ino frowned, but Neji is last year's Rookie of the Year, while Rock Lee is the dead last. Shinjetsu spoke up. Those academy rankings mean nothing. I can point out at least 2 examples where the so-called Rookie of the Year ends up much weaker than the dead last. Kiba actually looked interested. Well, don't keep us waiting. Tell us already. The first that comes to mind is Jiraiya and Orochimaru. It's a confirmed fact that Jiraiya, the dead last of his class, is the strongest of the 3 Sannin. Another example of this would be Minato Namikaze, the dead last of his class, who became many times stronger than the Rookie of the Year of her class, Fugaku Uchiha. Fugaku would end up being surpassed by 2 classmates. Fugaku ended up at best Jonin level, while his 2 classmates, the dead last, Minato Namikaze as well as Naruto's mother Kushina Uzumaki, who was in the middle of the pack, both ended up easily Cage level. Both were considered for the position of 4th Hokage. Sasuke sneered. "How dare you say that about my father?" Shinjetsu scoffed. "It's the truth, brat. Just ask your former sensei. He was Rookie of the Year. This arrogance nearly became his undoing. Hell, the only Rookie of the Year that I can think of that actually deserved the title was Itachi Uchiha. Of course, seeing as he was one of the rare not arrogant Uchiha, it's not that surprising. No wonder he went insane and killed his clan." Sasuke snarled as he was about to grab the sword when Asuma grabbed him. "Don't you dare, Genin. You're already on probation. You continue and you'll be removed from the Shinobi program before you can say ninjutsu." He then looked at Shinjetsu. "Please try to keep from setting off the Uchiha." Shinjetsu. "Fine. I'll stop antagonizing the Uchiha." For those who think I'm unjustly bashing Sasuke, there is a reason for this, not to mention, I don't exactly like him for most of the series. I mean, he's fine as an adult. Heck, he's actually cool then. But the rest of time, he was nothing more than a god MMO. I dare you all to argue in the arena. He looked at the 2 genin as he said, "Are you both ready?" Miss Yumi nodded as he said, "Yes." Rock Lee shouted out, "Yash, it's time to show how brightly my flames of youth are burning. If I fail, then I will run 20 laps around the village on my hands." He sweated up before he said, "Let the fight begin." This fight proved to be the shortest yet, as before Miss Yumi could even get close, Rock Lee had appeared in front of him and kicked him into the wall. "Hey, Sweater bro, seriously guy, what have you been teaching this kid?" He raised his arm as he said, "Winner by knockout, Rock Lee." After Rock Lee ran back up to the contestant box and Miss Yumi was taken away by medics, Hayde spoke up, "Wadasu Kenden and Gara Sabaku enter the arena, please." Gara appeared in the ring in a swirl of sand. Dasu soon followed him down, using the corridor instead. Once they were facing each other, Hayde said, "Are both combatants ready?" Dasu nodded, while Gara said in a monotone voice, "Mother wishes for his blood." Hayde frowned hearing that. It had become known that the kid was a Jinchuruki like Naruto, but unlike Naruto, he was extremely unstable. Let the match begin. Sand Coffin Sen rushed out of Gara's gourd and quickly engulfed Dasu before he could react. He lifted his arm and clenched his fist. Sand burial with a loud and disgusting sound, the sand rushed inward and crushed Dasu to death. Blood and parts of his body rushed out of the sand and landed on the ground. The sand then rushed back into his gourd. Hay looked at what had happened, trying to keep a straight face. It was unusual to see a genin that was so bloodthirsty. The winner by death, Gara Sabaku. It was then that there was an explosion in the cage box and feathers began to fall. This was the signal that the invasion had begun. With the genin, the moment the genjutsu began, Naruto released a pulse of chakra. Because of it, those close to him were freed from the genjutsu as well. As soon as he broke it, he stood up and grabbed Shinjetsu. As he did this, several sand and sound shinobi attacked the group, but were put down by the giant. As Asuma cut down a shinobi, he shouted out to the Jin, "Look alive, kids. We're being invaded." Before the giant could give any orders through, the Sand siblings were seen jumping from the contestant box and quickly leaving the stadium. Kurenai gave the genin orders. "Naruto, I want you to make a ton of clones to help with evacuation. Then I want you to take a team and chase after those three. Currently, you're the best chance we have of stopping Guard." Naruto nodded as he looked at the genin. "Shikamaru, Shino, Hinata, with me." The three nodded and followed Naruto as they quickly raced through the stadium. Once they were outside, Naruto created a couple hundred clones before sending them off to aid in evacuations. The moment the clones rushed off, the group raced towards the trees and hopped into them to give chase to Sand siblings, unaware that they had a follower with a Hokage. Hiruzen frowned as he looked at the form of his fallen student. "I had so many hopes for you, Orochimaru. It seems this time I will actually have to do my duty and end you." Orochimaru chuckled. "Oh, do you really think you are able to sensei? You have become rusty from your time as Hokage. Age has caught up to you." Hiruzen frowned as he said, "That may be true, but you gave me enough of a hint to allow me to shake off the rust. The moment you attacked young Sasuke and Sakura, I knew you would try to attack Konoha. I know you too well, Orochimaru. Although I will say that I was surprised that you got Suna to join the invasion." Orochimaru nodded before saying in a sarcastic tone, "Well, thank you for that, sensei. I do live to impress." His tone turned more sinister as a grin split his face. "Of course, by the end of today, Konoha will be destroyed. That boy Gaara will make certain of it. Once he releases Shukaku, the Biju will destroy the village." Hiruzen shook his hand. "The Will of Fire will win. Shukaku will be stopped. But most of all, you won't leave here alive." He threw off his robes to reveal his battle armor as he said, "As I said, I was expecting you to attack for the past month. Jury had gotten information that you were in charge of Sand, so I've been preparing. So, shall we begin our battle of life and death, my fallen student?" With Clone Group 1, the first clone group of 40 headed towards the hospital. Their goal was to help the doctors and shinobi secure the premise. As they got close, one of the clone swords spoke up. "It's been ages since I've been cloned." All the clones looked at the katana that had just spoken up. The one who was its wielder was doing his best impression of a fish. So one of the others asked the question, "Shinjutsu, what's going on?" The sentient sword's voice sounded from the blade held by the one who asked. Well, you know how shadow clones copy the equipment of the user. Yeah, I'm in contact with each of my copies. They might not have the same abilities as me, being nothing more than simple swords, but I can sense what happens around them, same as with my main body." A third Naruto spoke up this time. "You're talking through different swords, just mess with us, aren't you?" I will neither confirm or deny said accusation. Sadly, Shinjutsu's answer wasn't quite effective, seeing as he spoke from yet another sword. The leader of the group, who had finally recovered from his shock, spoke up, all in favor of treating the talking sword like he doesn't exist. Say aye. Every clone said aye. The ayes have it. Motion passed. Shinjutsu no longer exists. Now let's get back to work. With those words, the group charged off, ignoring the words of Shinjutsu. Clone Group 2. The second group, which had 60 clones, quickly arrived at their destination, the academy, only to find it under siege by sound shinobi. The children that taught classes there were trying their hardest to protect the small red barrier that contained the students. The teachers were being pushed back and would soon be overwhelmed by the 40 shinobi currently attacking them. The leader turned to his group. "Okay guys, take them by surprise, or shock and awe." All of them voted for shock and awe. Less than a minute later, the sound shinobi heard a loud voice shout out, "Charge!" before a tidal wave of blinds collided with their forces. The shock of a bunch of blinds randomly appearing caused chaos in the 40 sound shinobi. The few children that were left used this as a rallying point and attacked the enemy shinobi. Within 10 minutes, the sound shinobi had been killed, but only 10 Naruto clones, and 3 of the children were still alive. Urga, who was one of the survivors, stepped forward. "I guess I owe Naruto some ramen for sending reinforcements." The leader of the clones scratched the back of his head sheepishly. "The boss would probably enjoy that. Do you need help escorting the students to the shelter?" Urga nodded. if you don't mind, we really could use the help." With the nod, the leader of the clones turned to his brother and began to give orders, when suddenly the ground shook and in the woods rose a huge being of sand. Less than a minute later, the giant plume of smoke rose, and with a loud roar was blown away, revealing something that hadn't entered the shinobi world in years. Original Naruto's team. The group was quickly jumping through the trees at high speed, trying their best to catch up to the Sand siblings. The group had already decided on jobs for each member. Shikamaru and Hinata would take on Temari, while Shino would face Kankuro. Naruto, on the other hand, would face Goro. Hinata spoke up. "We are getting close. They have stopped, but Goro is doing something weird. He's becoming surrounded by a sphere of sand. He also seems to be chanting." Suddenly, Kurama's voice sounded in Naruto's head. It was heavily muffled, but the ancient fox's voice was still clear. "Naruto, you need to hurry. That's how a Jinchuriki for Shukaku releases him. Are you serious?" "Fuck." Naruto sped up as he said, "We need to hurry. I have a really bad feeling." They entered the clearing just in time to see the sand orb finish covering Goro and the chanting to grow louder as an eye of sand formed outside of it. Naruto frowned as he drew Shinjutsu. "Stick to the plan, everyone." Everyone acknowledged his orders and they charged at their opponents. Kankuro fled into the trees trying to get away from Shino so he could deploy his puppet in safety, while Temari jumped back as Shikamaru and Hinata charged her. Shikamaru stayed back to provide support, while Hinata took the place of the vanguard. Both groups disappeared into the forest, leaving Naruto and Goro alone in the clearing. Most likely the siblings assumed that no one could break through the sphere's defenses. Shino's fight is same as Ken, with Hinata and Shikamaru. They soon reached a new clearing. As they did, Hinata rushed forward, her hands glowing with chakra as she threw a palm strike at Temari, who was forced to block it with her closed fan before jumping back to dodge a couple kunai thrown by Shikamaru. She frowned as she thought, "So the Hyuga girl is the vanguard, striking at me to keep me on guard. I'm guessing Pineapple Head is the support. I need to figure out what exactly the Pineapple Head can do, because right now he could be the more dangerous one." Temari opened up her fan and released a gust of wind. Shikamaru took cover behind a tree while Hinata was hit and with a poof of smoke turned into a log. Temari turned on instinct to see Hinata charging at her, forcing her to keep on the retreat and not be able to get far enough away. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Shikamaru using hand signs, making her frown. That is till she saw the symbol on his sleeve. "Fuck, he's a no. He's probably come up with a plan to defeat me, and is telling the Hyuga through those hand signs." Hinata gave a nod towards Shikamaru as she did something Temari wasn't expecting. She dropped onto her hand and spun, her feet engulfed in chakra, kicking at Temari and managing to connect with her side. Temari was sent back into a tree, losing a hold of her fan. As she got back to her feet, she suddenly froze. "What the hell?" Shadow possession technique complete. Temari frowned. "Damn it, how did I get caught so easily?" Shikamaru smiled as he made her turn her head to look at him as he said, "As you probably noticed, I signaled to Hinata while she was fighting you. The whole plan hinged on her sending you into that tree to make it easier for me to trap you. But you really shouldn't be focusing on me." Suddenly, Hinata's voice sounded behind her. 8 trigrams, 32 palm. With those words, Shikamaru dropped the shadow possession. Just as Hinata unleashed a painful barrage on Temari, Temari fell to the ground, unable to move. "Damn it, if I had known you were a Nora earlier, I would have targeted you first. Troublesome. That was why I hang back." Many shinobi outside of Konoha know to always go for the Nora first, since we are natural strategists. Before they could continue speaking through, the ground began to shake as a massive being of sand rose from the ground. Before anyone could speak, a giant plume of smoke that represented a summoned beast appeared. With a roar and a burst of air, the being that had been summoned blew away the smoke to reveal itself. Temari and Shikamaru were speechless at the beast, but Hinata just smiled. She knew that Naruto would win now, because he now had a powerful ally on his side. Temari, on the other hand, became worried and tried to get up. "No, Goro, please be okay." She watched helplessly as the fight raged on, before she had regained enough movement to be able to try and get to her brother. With Naruto and Goro a few minutes earlier, Naruto received Shinjutsu and took a stance. As he did, he calmed his breathing and focused on the orb that wasn't moving. Suddenly, he rushed forward with his hand on his sword ready to draw. When he got close enough to the orb, he drew the blade quickly enough that all that was seen was a silver and black blur. Starlight, his blade cut into the orb. The chakra being streamed through the blade, making it vibrate at high speeds and cut through the sand. As the blade cut through the air, it left a trail of light. The blade began to cut through the orb, being slowed by the sand. But the high-speed vibration of the blade began to cut through. As it did, Shinjetsu began to drink the chakra that was in the sand, severing the control over the sand. Soon he had managed to fully cut through, causing a scream of pain to sound from the sphere before it fell to reveal the changed form of Gaara. It was obvious that Naruto's strike had interrupted Gaara's transformation. The unstable Jinchuriki was holding his right shoulder, which was bloody as he snarled at Naruto. His body now looked like it had been coated in sand and looked like a tanuki made of sand. Naruto took his stance, his knees bent, his sword held in a one-handed grip at his side, ready to be swung. This was the basic stance for his Kenjutsu style he had begun learning from Shinjetsu. Celestial Knight. It allowed Naruto to switch between sword attacks and the kicks that his Taijutsu style used. He then decided to use one of the oldest tactics in the Uzumaki clan repertoire, insulting your enemy to make them lose control. I got to say, Gaara, I didn't know you were a furry, so you get off dressing up as animals. Hey, I'm not one to judge. Gaara narrowed his eyes as sand quickly covered and closed his wound. He then said in a demonic voice, Mother will have your blood, Uzumaki. Also, you're into blood play as well. Well, sorry, I'm not into that. Daddy bail. But if you want, we can start on some good old-fashioned bondage. Gaara snarled and launched a brace of sand shuriken at him, which Naruto dodged with ease. I guess that's a no-how. Naruto prepared himself for what would likely be the hardest fight he had been in so far. He dodged around various sand shuriken and rushed forward. Shinjetsu began to glow silver, forming an aura around him as he thrust him forward like a spear with one hand. Meteor. In response, Gaara's sand rose up to block the strike, but it was still getting through, so he was forced to put more and more sand into it. When suddenly Naruto spun slightly, his arm still thrusting the sword forward, and his leg managed to slip by Gaara's defense and wrap around the back of his neck. Reception. With a grunt, he forcefully slammed Gaara into the branch before leaping back. When he landed, he took stock of what just happened. As I thought, he doesn't have as much sand for defense right now. Most of it is coating his body. Likely he can make more, but if I'm keeping him focused on me, it will probably take longer. Gaara roared as he climbed back to his feet and charged at Naruto like a rabid beast, swinging his claws at him. Naruto was forced on the retreat, parrying with Shinjetsu as he did. Each clash caused Gaara to lose some of his sand claws, which was quickly restored by the spare sand he had. Naruto flipped back and landed on his free hand as he spun on it, sending multiple kicks at Gaara, each kick being blocked by the sand. Naruto just channeled chakra to his palm, making it so there was very little friction while he used the sand to pivot the other way and was slowly building up speed and strength. Soon he was spinning fast enough that the sand was having a hard time keeping up with him. Mixer. Asterisk. Finally, one of the kicks managed to sneak past the sand and strike Gaara hard in the chest, sending him flying. Naruto flipped off his hand and landed on the branch, making 5 shadow clones. Together, the clones and him charged Gaara. The unstable Jinchuriki stood up and had managed to calm down enough to actually think out his moves. His right claw swung out, releasing a blade of sand that cut through 2 of the clones and made them disappear. His left claw then extended and took out another before the 2 clones in original reached him. The 2 clones' blades clashed against the claws, unable to cut through as the swords were just normal blades. While the original slid under the branch using tree walking and quickly got behind him, pulling out a kunai with an exploding tag wrapped around the handle. Here, Gaara, like that you were present. 1,000 years of death. With those words, he thrust the kunai into the base of Gaara's tail and jumped away. Just as the tag exploded, Naruto landed on the trunk of a tree as he tried to look through the smoke. Suddenly, Shinjetsu spoke up. Did you just... Naruto nodded. Were they? Of course, Shinjetsu. Naruto, you are a very weird person. Soon the smoke cleared to reveal Gaara, but his body was misshapen, showing that the explosion had done lots of damage. I won't let you win, Uzumaki. Mother will have your blood. With that shout, there was a burst of chakra so powerful that it threw Naruto back. He crashed into the trunk of a tree and had to catch his breath thanks to having the air knocked out of his lungs. Suddenly, a shadow covered him. When he looked up, his eyes went wide as he cursed. Standing above him was a massive tanuki made of sand with various black markings on its body that almost looked like lettering. Seeing the tanuki, Naruto began to gather as much chakra as he could before biting his thumb and slamming his hand down on the trunk as he shouted, summoning jutsu. With a plume of smoke and a roar, the Uzumaki clan dragon summons announced their return to the shinobi world. If so wish, you can play Porno Graffiti, the day also known as My Hero Academia opening Song 1, because this is literally the song that started playing in my playlist when I was writing this part. The cloud was blown away to reveal a massive dragon. The dragon was pitch black with an almost skeletal frame. Its eyes were blood red and its bat-like wings were extended to its full size. Its black claws gleamed like black steel. On his head was Naruto, who was happy that the summoning worked. That's when it spoke in a scratchy male voice. So you are our newest summoner. It's nice to meet you. I'm Gezo, the Dark Infernal Dragon. One of the greatest dragons you ever have a pleasure of meeting. The dragon studied the tanuki in front of his before he let out a sound that could only be a chuckle. You summoned me to fight. That's great. I was looking for a good throwdown. Before Naruto could say anything, Gaara appeared on top of Shukaku's head as he made a hand sign. Play possum jutsu. With those words, Gaara fell asleep and Shukaku's eyes brightened. I'm finally free, baby. Oh, and look, some people I can murder. With those words, Shukaku sucked in air and released several air bullets at Gezo. One style, air bullet. The dragon returned fire with several balls of orange fire that were streaked with black. Fire style, dark fire bullets. The balls of fire clashed with the air bullets and consumed them. Is that the best you got, you overgrown plush toy? Gezo raised his right claw, which became engulfed in black and orange flames. Dark Flame Reaver. With this declaration, he swung her claw, releasing an arc of flames at Shukaku, who protected himself with sand. When the flames met the sand became black glass, blocking Shukaku's view. Once the sand was turned to glass, the dragon swung one of his claws at it, shattering it. With a maniacal laugh, a massive tidal wave of sand came rushing at Gezo, who released a stream of fire to combat the sand in response. The sand and fire clashed, and the sand warped into glass. But the dragon wasn't able to hold back the sand forever. Gezo was forced to take to the air as the sand overwhelmed his position. Man, I'm lucky that he isn't in a desert. Otherwise, this would be impossible. Naruto, I'm going to try and hold Shukaku in place. When I do, you need to jump over to his head and wake up the brat. He dove down, using the sun behind him to make it difficult for Shukaku to look directly at him. As he dove, he released a barrage of black and orange flame blades from his claws, forcing Shukaku to protect himself with sand. Soon engulfing the tanuki in a covering of glass, he smashed through the glass and Shukaku was forced to block the attack with his arms. Gezo closed his claws around each arm and leaned forward, blasting flames in Shukaku's face, making sure to angle his mouth so he didn't hit Gaara, before saying, "Now Naruto, do it." Naruto leapt off Gezo's head and onto the now glass head of Shukaku. He ran along the one-tailed Biju's head until he got to Gaara. To make certain Gaara woke up, Naruto used the strongest kick he knew. It's bad manners to sleep on the battlefield, Gaara. Concuss, crush. He flipped into the air and spun through it several times before bringing his foot down Gaara's head hard. As he did, Gaara woke up in Shukaku, who was shouting about being forced back, and began to crumble. The two of them fell to the ground as Gezo disappeared as well. His time was up. Naruto and Gaara both landed on branches and glared at each other. Gaara was on his last legs. While Naruto was tired, he wasn't close to passing out like Gaara. Training with bushy brows and Mega Brow Sensei had definitely done wonders. Gaara leapt at Naruto, trying to kill him with his bare hands. Berchet, skewer. Naruto leapt into the air and flipped over Gaara's head before aiming his leg downward and began to spin like a drill. With a burst of chakra, Naruto was sent downward and his Gaara in the back, knocking the two of them into the ground. When they impacted on the ground, Naruto flipped backwards and landed as he panted. As he looked at Gaara, he frowned as he could see himself in Gaara. He began to walk forward. As he did, Gaara tried to throw sand at him. "You want to erase my existence? Stay back. Don't come closer." It's almost unbearable, isn't it? The feeling of being all alone. Gaara froze when he heard that, and for some reason he listened to Naruto. "I know that feeling, because I'm just like you." The Jinchuriki, Gaara spoke up. Why? Why would you sacrifice so much for them?" Naruto shook his head. I don't do it for the people who look down on me. I do it for the people who saw me for me. Hakijiji, Uruka-sensei, Kirby Sage, Hinata-chan. They all saw me as Naruto Uzumaki. Not as a Jinchuruki, but a person. Those are people who I want to protect and who want to protect me in return. They are the reason why I fight. They are my strength and I will never turn my back on them. I see, you protect them because you love them, but I don't have anyone like that. Naruto frowned. But what about your siblings? Naruto pointed behind Gaara where Temari and Kankuro were walking forward, both limping but defensive. Temari had her fan out and was glaring at Naruto. It wasn't quite as effective as it would normally have been with her with how ragged she looked. It was obvious she had only barely managed to get away from Hinata and Shikamaru. Most likely with a lot of chakra points sealed, I won't let you hurt my little brother anymore. Gaara spoke up. Temari, Kankuro, enough. Let's just go home. The two siblings nodded and helped Gaara get up. As they left, Gaara spoke once more. Temari, Kankuro, I'm sorry for everything. The two were shocked, but it was Kankuro who answered. It's fine, Gaara. We're just happy to have our little brother back. After they left, Naruto started to head back to the village. Even though he was tired, he needed to get back. As he walked, he stumbled when his foot hit a small hole. But before he could fall, a blue and cream-colored blur shot out and steadied him. I bet you, Naruto-kun. Hinata smiled at him as she said, Naruto-kun, you did it. He smiled as he stroked Hinata's hair before pulling away slightly. Yay. But I'm also tired and sore. Mind helping me get back to the village, Hinata-chan? I don't want to fall on my face. Hinata nodded with a smile as they both moved back towards the village. Little did Naruto know. Sadly, not every battle of the invasion would turn out okay. Today he would lose someone extremely important to him. What if Orochimaru managed to revive Minato? Orochimaru smirked as he looked at the three coffins. It's over, Sensei. With these three, I will kill you and then the village will fall. The coffin lids fell to the ground, revealing the first, second, and fourth Hokage. They stepped out of the coffins and opened their eyes, looking around as they did. Hashirama looked at Hiruzen as he said, Hiruzen, is that you? Tobirama shook his head. You've definitely gotten old. Age really wasn't kind to you. Minato looked at Hiruzen as he asked the question that was most important to him. How is Naruto doing, old monkey? Hiruzen couldn't help but grin. He had missed hearing that nickname. But before he could answer, Tobirama spoke up. I never thought I would be revived by my own jutsu. Hashirama glared at his brother as he said, I told you that you shouldn't have made this jutsu. But did you listen to me? No. Why should you listen to your older brother? Tobirama snorted. Maybe it's because my older brother is a meathead who has to have his wife do all his thinking for him. Orochimaru watched the bickering, quite enjoying it. He was certain of his victory. That was until Minato began to glow slightly and move. Minato slammed his palm into the Senju brothers' chest, knocking them back slightly. But a sealed pattern spread on their bodies and they regained mobility. It also had the side effect of stopping the argument between the brothers. Hashirama grinned. Oh, I'm free to move on my own again, neat. His goofiness instantly broke the amber who were watching out of their delusions. Orochimaru's eyes went wide as he said, How can you move, Minato? I summon you. I control you. Minato grinned at Orochimaru. You really didn't do your research, did you, Snake Tan? I died using the Reaper Death Seal. That means my soul is property of the Shinigami, which means I can't be controlled by anyone else. It was even easier to free those two. All I needed was a contract-breaking seal and well, your jutsu is now working against you. He turned to the two Senju brothers. So one of you two can take care of him. I'm going to go help out the other shinobi and then go see my son. With those words, Minato vanished in a flash of yellow light. Hashirama and Tobirama looked at each other before both playing Jenkin, with Tobirama winning. Hashirama pouted at his loss. No fair. I wanted to beat up the pale-looking pedophile. Apparently, even those who have been dead for over 40 years thought Orochimaru was a pedophile. Tobirama looked at Orochimaru, cracking his knuckles as he said, Tough brother. Now go help out the Kano shinobi. I'm going to teach this snake why you should respect the dead. Hiruzen just watched the scene as he made a chair with earth chakra, unsealing popcorn from a seal on his armor. This would be good. That day, the screams of agony from Orochimaru sounded loud enough for all those in the village to hear.